So I was gonna fly for today. Sorry. Yeah, okay. Let me just go to the Django in June. And I want to show you also, I just checked and found out that they have updated now. And this just means like the tier 1 are the easier songs for people that are newer or, you know, still learning and stuff. And the tier 2 are the more advanced tunes. And usually the tier 2 songs feature stuff for the big headlining artists that are there teaching. And one of those artists is Fapy Lafertin, who's a big deal. He's like a beloved, one of the favorites of pretty much every like guitarist in this genre that I know. They're all like, Fapy, he's one of the best. This is cool. Old VHS buzz. Look at that crazy microphone. What is that? What I wanted to do is talk about, first of all, the kind of our basic, which is that we want to play Frank Morocco style and super light. So we're going to have a lot of compression here. We're going to try to keep our left arm with a lot of compression, and then we're just going to tap those basses. And I'm going to change the bellows. Basically, I'm working to change the bellows as much as I can, opening 2 measures and closing 2 measures. So that's the A minor 7. It just says A minor, but we're going to play A minor 7, D7, and then G major. and G over B, and G, B flat diminished, and then back to A minor. I don't know what's up with that F major, so I'm not going to play it. And D7, and G. You get the idea. Okay. And then the right hand, also we have this great compression, and we're going to try to play a lot of the time on the surface, so superficial. So here, I'm relaxing my hand as my cycle of practice that I've talked about in a bunch of the previous episodes of the live stream. Relax. There's a sweetness and a gentleness to that. I could do more with the volume in the air, but right now I'm just practicing. I'm not practicing for trying to make shapes like we've talked about in years past. I'm trying just to work on that constant compression because that's the basic technique that I want to work on. But still, that way of playing on the surface, so superficial, and trying to get a nice release of the notes. Right? You can hear, I'm very, I feel like Donald Trump. You can hear that that I'm gently ending the note, like closing the door. To call it a door, I think is exactly what it is. And so instead of slamming, right? Now, that's what we're going for in terms of our style, of our touch. And when I work on improvisation and I do my roots practice, like I've showed, I'm working on that touch, but making it to sound good and clear and strong and swing. And when I play my chords, it's the same thing. So on the chords, so this chord right now is superficial. It's not going all the way down. So now all the way down. So what I'm trying to do is get a lot of these block chords in here, which is like the thesis also of this. That's the point of today. That's what I wanted to focus on here, is these block chords and how to use them and how to create motion and movement here. And the step before this is for you guys to practice the block chords. So if I was trying to give a really thorough to take people who don't know about block chords and then get them here, it would take like 2 hours just to like kind of walk you guys through all the block chords. So I'm going to let that be handled in other material that I make on the website and other live streams that I do. For now, I could tell you just to practice, 3 and 4 note chords in arpeggio, or in inversions rather. So that's the A minor chord in the definite inversions. And if you do it with the touch, if you do it as I've shown on, I think last week and the week before that, that you make the compression and you try to relax your hand and then play on that cushion of air. So you're not, I'm not playing. That's me really opening all those doors, pressing all the way to the bottom of the keys. And I don't think it's the way, it's not the sound that I like. It doesn't feel, it doesn't allow me to do my thing. This is not the technique. So it also allows us to move the chords quicker. You know, it's still a matter of your fingers getting onto the right keys, which is not easy and requires practice. But it allows you to smoothly move. But what I want to talk about is the more advanced shapes that I'm using. So here's a wonderful shape that is, it's what we call a rootless A minor. So A minor 7 would be A, C, E, G. And then to be rootless means there's no root in it. So I'm not going to play the A in my right hand. I will in the left hand, but the right hand won't. And then I'm going to involve the 9 here. So there's the 9. And it's when I invert, when I get any other voicing than this root position one, I get this beautiful clash, this little dissonance between the C and the B, which is so pretty. So, what a difference a day makes. 24 hours to 24 little hours. I'm missing that diminished. Flowers. So just stuff like that. And it's about, I mean, the beauty is like knowing the right notes, but it's also how I'm playing it. And which is, again, that touch. Now, wherever I am, we have a 2-5 here. So this chord shape, the most important thing is that the G is going to go to the F sharp for the D7. But what I want to do is I want to add some of these alterations, especially when I'm using this as a fill. What a difference a day makes. 24 little. So when you have this, then we can start talking about different kinds of D7 shapes. So, and the dominant 7s in jazz are a really great canvas, a blank canvas to add all these alterations for. So here I'm taking a close position, A minor 9, and then I want this, that's going to be a, what is that, a sharp 11 on the D7. So I have this big spread voicing, F sharp, C, E, G sharp, and then I'm really opening up my hand to like a Golden Age Art Van Dam style. All those jazz accordion players played these big voicings. So now big one. And the reason why I want to do that is because it follows this. There's a melody to it. So on the A minor, G's at the top. On the D7, G sharp's at the top. And on the G major, the A's at the top. And there's ways to do it where I don't have to do that super huge spread thing. That works. Any of those. This is a great one to do. To use your thumb to play 2 white notes that are right next to each other. So in this case, that G major chord, I'm making a G major 9, and I've got my thumb double. My thumb is doubling the A on the top and the bottom. And then a thing that I'll do is when we have like these sort of longer periods, like you have sort of essentially 4 beats of a G major. So I can go a half step below that G major. So I'm thinking a G major 6, which is in an inversion here. Sounds great. And approaching it from a half step below. Let me do it again, and I'll just tell you that what I'm going to do is I'm going to go, every time I hit the sort of the G major here, there, I can't do it here because we moved to a B flat diminished, but here and then here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play inversions of that G major 6, and I'm going to add a half step below. So that's coming down, but with a G flat 6 coming up to G6, G flat 6 to G6, G flat 6 to G6, right? That's kind of the melody. Actually, here. But harmonized, right? I'll do something like that. Or I might go up. Oops, didn't mean to hit that. Right? Okay. With the 9, and then maybe here's the G flat to G. And then we're moving to another key. So then on the next C major, so now we're down here is where I stopped, right here. And on this one right here, that C major, I could do the same idea as I did on the G. So when I get to that C, I'll play a C major 6 in a bunch of inversions to create motion. Again, that's what we're trying to do, is create motion and melody. It's the same concept as what Fapy Lafertin was doing when he's filling in the melody, you know, whether we're doing just accompaniment for ourselves in the melody or accompanying another musician or whatever, we still want to have a lot of motion and melody in our accompaniment, in our chords. And this is a relatively simple way, at least intellectually simple way, of creating variation in the harmonies. So, so here's my C major 6. So, now I'm going to do a B major to a C minor. Now I'll do a B diminished to C minor, which is the 6th diminished scale. I have a video on my YouTube channel about that, but I'll talk about it too in a second. Back to a G major, G diminished. And then we're back at the top again. So I'm just showing one idea, which is this idea of when you have a major tonic chord, so like a 1 chord in a tonal center, so a G major or a C major on this song, playing them as major 6s because that gives it that swing era sound. So G major 6, inverted, 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 and hitting it with the half step below. G flat to G. You could also go. Okay, a little too fast. But there was like I just used a D pedal and I made a little intro, a little chord intro thing. Anyway, okay, so that's one approach, and I'm sort of starting to talk about altering the dominant chords, which I'm going to come back to. But let's talk about another technique, which is the sixth diminished scale, which is wonderful. So that is where we create a scale. So you take your chord, and this is really neat. This works on every single kind of chord that exists methodically. So we'll take the A minor chord, and we'll say, well, do I want to make that an A minor 7 or an A minor 6? In this case, it's a 2 chord, so I'm going to make it an A minor 7. And I'm going to play a scale. No, it'd be there. Like, so I'm going to be A, B, C, D, E. Let's start there. And I'm going to harmonize the A, the C, and the E with an A minor 7. So just inversions. And then on the other notes of the scale, I'm going to do a diminished chord, where that's a note of the diminished. So it's... Let me play with the left hand. What do I need? F. Sorry. Right, like that. So that gives us all this motion. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the D7 chord here. So on this D7, I'm going to make a D7 scale. Is that right? B flat. It's a little weird of a scale, but it works. So every note that's in the D7, so the D, the F sharp, the A, the C, and the D are going to be D7 chords. It's nothing fancy. It's a dominant 7 chord. You use it in polka and everything. And then every other note becomes diminished. So I have D7, E diminished, D7, G diminished, D7, B flat diminished, D7, C sharp. Right? And so there it gives us a ton of motion. Now that one, there's like two in the melody, there's too much movement in that D7 to really, the bar of D7 to find space. But if I wanted to harmonize it, that's a little weird. Actually, you can't even harmonize it on the melody because it's really more like a sus chord. But on a solo, if I wanted to do a solo, I could, start. So on the A minor. To the A minor, so the 6th diminished, so A minor, G sharp diminished, A minor, G sharp diminished, D7, C sharp diminished, D7, C sharp diminished, and and then to the G, which I could also do 6th diminished scale. So this is one technique, one idea called the 6th diminished scale, Barry Harris. And it's because all of the, every other chord is going to be, well, in his original thing, it was 6th chords, but we can do this with 7th chords, which we are actually on the A minor 7. That'd be a 7th diminished scale, meaning that you're alternating between a 7th chord and a diminished chord. So like on the D7, it's a 7th chord, and then a diminished chord, and then a 7th chord, and then a diminished chord, and then a 7th, and a diminished, and a 7th. And actually, there's only 2 different kinds of chords. It's either a D7 in an inversion or a C sharp diminished in an inversion. So there's only 2 different chords that you just keep inverting to make that scale, which is so cool. And then on the G major, we'll go to the 6th. So G6, F sharp diminished, G6, F sharp diminished, G6, F sharp diminished. So if I combine that if I combine the 6th diminished, right? And sometimes I'll add, right? I'll get the melody that I'm playing. I'll go, or, so, right? This song doesn't actually do that. It doesn't walk down to the E7 like that. It never goes from G major to E7. But regardless, and this is a thing that I like to do approaching a minor chord. So what a difference a day makes, 24 hours. So here on the E7. Maybe the half step below, G flat G, or maybe 6th diminished. To the B7, and we could do like we could do 6th diminished here, so it'd be B7 and then A sharp diminished. To E minor. It's starting to sound cheesy now. Doing it so much. To the D minor. To C minor. So I'm using a lot of the 6th diminished scale there. So we're on C major. So that's again, I'm showing you like a lot of my stuff, and it's really only a few things just over and over again. I don't have like a million different ideas. I have a few that I'm trying to make musical and find melodies with. So again, when I get to the C major, it's something that I showed you that I did on the G major, which is to add that 9 and not omit the root. So there's no, that's a G major 9. I'm not going to play the G, and maybe I'm going to play it in an inversion so the A is right next to the B, like that. And I can do the same thing on the C major. So now we're on the C major here in the tune. Right there. The C major to the C minor. Now on that C minor, technically it's a C minor major 7 because the melody is a major 7. But I'm still going to play a minor 6. Back to G, and maybe I'll do the half step below G flat. And then B flat diminished, which we have a few times. And on that one, I like going, I love that. whatever inversion I have, if I go down 4 half steps, like 1, 2, 3, 4, I wind up at another inversion of the same diminished chord. So we're gonna get to a B flat right now, B flat diminished. Sixth diminished. La da dee do, 2/5. Do 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 ba you do. O da ba do play dan. Sixth diminished. Now I'm doing a 13, a D7 13. So I'm trying to walk. I'm thinking of the melodies, and I'm hearing the melodies always in all these connecting chords. Right? So A minor 6, G sharp diminished, A minor 6, G sharp diminished, and then a D9 with a 13 in there. And then I make it like an augmented. And back at the top. So the ideas for the block chords is so much about getting motion and movement. And I've talked about, let's see, there's one more idea that I want to tell you. And then another idea for motion is doing the sixth diminished scale. So that's where you have basically your inversions of the chords. Whatever the chord is, you have your inversions that make up every other note of the scale. Like if it's A minor, that's the root of the scale, that's the third of the scale, that's the fifth of the scale, that's the seventh of the scale, and then back to the root again. So, right? And then every other note in your scale is a diminished. And you put that together, right? And you have a beautiful harmonized scale that sounds incredible. And so you can do that on every single one of these chords. And in previous videos, I've showed you how I work on this. And I'm super methodical, and I'm really slow and gentle with myself. So I'll say, let me just do the first 3 notes of the scale. So if I was to do this exercise, right, that I have done, and I might do on this, I would just do the first 3 notes. So it's going to be A, B, C, but harmonized. So A minor 7 here, G sharp diminished, A minor 7. Now I'll do D7, C sharp diminished, D7, like that, and the G. I'll go through the whole thing. So this would be how I would start the exercise. Second line of the tune. Now the B7. Now the E minor. Now we're at the A7. The A diminished, which is fun. Back to the A7. Now the A minor. And the D7. And the A minor. And the D7. And G major, D7. D7. G major. B flat diminished. A minor, D7, and now D minor 7, G7, so you could do C major 6 or C major 7. That's C major 7, which that's one that I haven't played around with. Usually I just change a major 7 to a major 6. So C major 6 and C minor 6 and G major, B flat diminished, A minor 7, D7, G major D7, G major, D7, G major. Right? And I would do that, for all the keys and stuff, and just a while, for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month, because I'm going to take this through a bunch of different keys. So after I do the key of G, A flat, so a half step, sorry. Minor, right? And so on through the whole tune. So I do all the chords, I do the melody, just like I've shown. I've shown on standards and musettes, all that sort of thing. So I go through, and then any of this other like harmonic stuff that I'm working on, I work on also as a little step of my practice in whatever key. So after A flat, then I do the key of A, and then the key of B flat, and the key of B, and C, C sharp. And these now, I don't make it through 12 keys in one day. I make it through 12 keys in maybe 3 days, because there's just so much that I want to do in each key, and I'm really working on the touch quite a bit, which makes me go way slower. So the last thing that I was going to show about creating motion in these block chords is to move chords up a half step and back down. And this works on all the chords. So let me go back to the key of G so we can all follow. So I'm playing A minor, and then up to B flat minor, and back to A minor, and D7 to E flat 7 to D7. G, I usually don't do it so much on a major tonic, but you can. It also works below, as I showed. And a lot of times I'll approach a chord, especially a dominant chord, I'll start a half step above. So this is A minor 7, 2, 3, 4, E flat to D7. Ba ba be, da ba be, do da. So A minor 7, here comes the E flat. So I'm forgetting the melody. Here's the B7. So whenever I have a dominant chord, especially that lasts a long time, and I've picked this up from gypsy jazz, because on the guitar players will do this a whole bunch, because Django did it, and Django's accompanist and contemporaries did it. So so here's a B7, and go up a half step to C7, and then back down. And this happens on Indifference, actually, the same chord, B7. So a lot of times the Django guitar players go B7 to C7 back to B7. So if we go back to this, I'm on the third line on the B7. Now I got to be careful. I have to make sure that I'm not doing this chord movement when the melody is happening, is being played, because that B natural would clash against the C7 chord. But as a fill, la da 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 da, la di da da da, da 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 dee da do, A7 to B flat, so up a half step. And hopefully, as I'm showing you a lot of these, you guys are going like, I recognize that. Like, that is a sound that I've heard. Maybe you know what record or what performance, what musician or whatever, or maybe it's just in the general like sort of zeitgeist sponging up of American culture. Because this chordal stuff is stuff that all the guitar players, the organ players, the jazz pianists, the big band saxophone section writing and trumpet section. I mean, this is all the same stuff, and it's very, very common. Everything that I'm showing here is done all through the jazz and swing vocabularies, and it's done on all the jazz, all the genres of music that have jazz sort of vocabulary, jazz harmonic vocabulary, such as tango and choro and musette valse. That's from the 50s, the jazzy musette valse, just to name a few. So it's stuff that can work on in anything. So if I'm playing Indifference in E minor, so this is the same voicing I was showing for A minor, the 9, and then Rootless Am9 for E minor too. Sounds killer. Maybe an extension or a natural or not. So now we have the melody. La di dum, which is wonderful. On the B section, throw a bunch of 2/5s in there. Anyways, that's a whole other tune. But just to show you that all of these harmonic approaches work over any tune that has, functional harmony. Really, it does make it sound a lot jazzier. So that has to be something that you want. But it totally works.